to Bourbon Barrel Talk. I'm your host, Scott Minton, and today we are visiting with Mr. Tyler Mirt. He is the Barrel Procurement Manager for Old Forester. I guess that's a good title. And then Josh Hillman sitting with me today. So how's it going, Tyler?
It's going great. Happy to have you guys. Happy to have some in-person bourbon connection.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So did I get the title right? I know you said you're a sommelier and all those other fancy things, but your actual title here at Old Forester, did I get that right?
Here I'm the single barrel host.
Single barrel host, okay.
So I'm the one who leads all our clients who would like to come visit the distillery. I'll lead them through our drilling of barrels and the selection process. Classically, right now it's all being done virtually, which has its ups and downs, but it's been kind of cool. We've found new ways to utilize that platform. If you are a bourbon club or whatnot, we've found that you can invite other members to log on to the tasting, and they may not be able to taste, but they can go to the chat feed and ask questions, and you can have 60 or so people on there. So there are some advantages during these weird times.
So when you do it virtually, do you just send them out like a 375 bottle and they can divvy them up amongst however they want to or something like that?
Yes, that's correct. We'll send you 3 samples, and however many are going to be involved in the tasting gets divvied up between them, and I will get on there. And it's not my job in the first place to pick the selection for you, but I kind of lead them through my tasting process, give them my tips and tricks that might help them, pull out some additional flavors or aromas and whatnot, and then come to an ultimate conclusion.
There you go. That sounds pretty interesting. Cool. It's something I'd love to do.
It's not a bad gig.
But I don't have the smell to do this. I catch a few things, but like some guys I know, they're super like, I get leather and pipe tobacco, and they start going through all these things.
Why would you want to drink those things, leather and pipe tobacco?
They actually have very tasty, profiles. When you get the smell in them, but it's just weird. I don't pick up those things. I guess my palate's not that sophisticated. I'm not a master taster, so.
I'm no master taster or master smeller, but I am an Old Foe fanboy. So if you see me panting a couple times today while we're here, just know that I love the juice.
That's exactly right.
Well, thank you, man. You're in good company.
Good
awesome.
Deal. Good deal. So, hey, if you don't mind, we tried a couple of different things already. You were kind enough to bring out a bottle of President's Choice. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. And then we had a special project that you guys did for the Louisville Fire Department or the Firefighters Club, and it was a sample that you had from one of the barrel strength barrels that you all did for that. So I thought that was a cool story. You were kind of telling us a little bit about that before we got started. So if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about that first.
Yeah, I'll elaborate. And first off, the apartment that we are sitting in is right next door to the distillery. And for those of you who may not have been to the distillery and been able to visit us yet, this whole thing almost never happened. Old Forester it's a 150-year brand. We're celebrating our 150th anniversary this year, but we never had a home place. We never had a place to share our story. And in 2015, the whole kind of storefront here on Whiskey Row caught fire, and the distillery was supposed to open spring of 2017, and that got delayed by a whole year. But the fact that the fire was put out and our brave and heroic firefighters were able to stop it is the whole reason that we were able to continue with these plans of building our distillery and being able to get Old Forester a home place finally. So to honor that, when we were transitioning to the 100 proof and barrel proof single barrel program, Jackie decided that the first barrels of 100 proof and barrel strength were going to honor the four of the firehouses that responded and saved our building. So had the privilege of sitting with Jackie and tasting with the four fire departments that responded to this fire and saved our building. So they each selected a 100 proof and a barrel strength, and those were to be the first 100 proof and barrel strengths released of Old Forester ever. All the proceeds will continue to go to the fire department. course, the whole pandemic thing hit and whatnot. So we're going to do that at a later date. But just the whole overall story, the barrels that they were selecting, the fire was July 7th of 2015, and those were the barrels that they selected from. So as these guys were putting out the fire and saving our building, those barrels were being filled over in Shively. So it was just this whole cyclical kind of thing. And we'll get there. We're going to have our firefighters back into the building as soon as we can and let them select our barrel. But just an amazing group of guys. You had guys that had gotten blown through walls in an explosion. They were on the roof in the news feeds that you saw. Pretty amazing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I have nothing but respect for our fire departments and police departments and things to that nature. When most people are trying to get out of a building, they're going in it. So you got to appreciate people that do those type of things.
So you let us try a sample of that, and the firefighter, one of the barrels, barrel proof. And I told you before that I'm a huge single barrel, Old Forester single barrel fan. And the only thing I've had to date has been the 90 proof, which I love, the variety of them. But this one had a great nose to it, but then you go and you sample it, you taste it, and it's in your mouth, and you're swishing it around. Just the flavor that's popping out of that thing. A little bit of mouth burn, but then, going down, there is no afterburn whatsoever. It is just a smooth bourbon.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's funny because, Josh does not like barrel strength. Like we take him out, we're working on his palate, things like that. He loves
my palate is just fine. It loves Old Forester. Shut up.
Yeah. Josh he's a perennial Old Forester and turkey guy. So and there's nothing wrong. They're both great products, But
Absolutely.
I always tease him out. I like the hot stuff, If the hotter it is, the better. So.
And you pulled out a couple of things today you wanted to bring just to sample, and I have tried a few of those and just immediately said, I'm not touching those.
That's exactly right. Exactly right.
Well, I'm glad you liked the barrel strength, not being a barrel proof fan. And, rule number one is drink it how you like it. But I have found we're already getting great feedback at barrel proof in that it is amazing how smooth it is. You have heat, you have spice, but it also kind of stays above your collarbone, if you will. It doesn't go all the way down like some of the others out there. So
that's a great way to describe it, because that is exactly how it was, and it was enjoyable.
Yeah, it had a nice clean finish, right? It didn't burn, all the way down in, and it gives you enough strong finish that it kind of goes down the back end of your tongue and then just kind of dissipates into just nice pop of flavor, and like I told him, like we said, the caramel and the vanillas, and it had a lot of rich, sweet flavors, and that's one of the things that we both like about Old Forester is the fact that you can get a little bit of a sweeter palate, and some of the most recent picks that we've really, really enjoyed have been kind of more on the fruity side, like the orchard, honey orchard, and then the
honey orchard,
cherry picker. So,
yeah, I mean the versatility of our mash bill and our yeast, especially our yeast, is very fruity, banana forward. So you always get the fruit up front, but then the higher rye content, you get these beautiful spice notes in the back. It's a very balanced equation between our mash bill and our yeast strain, I think.
We were talking a little bit before about how awesome the honey orchard pick was, and I got at least 2 bottles at home still, and that last bottle is going to be highly coveted by me. That at some point I'm not going to let friends drink any of that one, because it's going to be all for me.
Sometimes you got to be just a little selfish. When you find a really, really good pour, it's hard to sometimes watch the bottle empty out. I've had a couple of. The first bottle of GTS I ever opened up, it was one of those things. It was special, and I drank it, and we drank it with, just parties and friends, and I always had it with friends. And then as it started to narrow down to the bottom, I was like just kind of hoarding it, until I could get to the very, very bottom by myself. And now I've got 2 more bottles. So I'm going to crack one of those open here soon with a special occasion with a group of buddies, and we'll just kind of start drinking it again. And then knowing that I have that backup, and because they're so hard to get.
So, Tyler, I told you the honey orchard's my favorite single barrel pick I've had so far. Do you have one that has kind of held that place for you?
A single man honey orchard is up there, and you're in good company. I specifically remember, I believe Jackie was out of town, and we were releasing honey orchard that morning, and they called me like, you have to do the tasting notes. And I tasted honey orchard, and I texted Jackie, and I was like, oh my God, this is insane. And I stupidly asked, have you tried this? She's like, of course I tried it. I picked it. But yeah, honey orchard is definitely up there. I am excited how we're kind of transitioning with the master taster selections. These are single barrels that Jackie hand selects, which is kind of an interesting process in that all Old Forester, it's all the same mash bill. We only make one whiskey, but the versatility again of our mash bill and our yeast strain and our maturation process allows us to do 8 different expressions, not including single barrels. So if there are barrels that are lighter, fruity, floral, maybe that goes into the next batch of 1870. More robust, spicy backbone, maybe that's the next 1897 or 1920, whatnot. But it's these barrels that are coming to maturity in that 4 to 6 year range when Chris Morris, our master distiller, or Jackie, our master taster, is walking through the warehouse and they find these barrels that may not fit one of the core profiles, but they have this unique personality unto themselves. That's what, it's what we send over here and set aside for single barrel. And out of those, that's what Jackie is selecting when one just really hits her over the head and is like, wow, this is something totally unique, totally special within our flavor wheel that she sets aside for the master taster selection. So they're all completely unique.
So the master taster selection, the barrel or the bottles that end up with MTS on them as they're going out the door, are those all going out the door here at the distillery, or are those going out in market and you're able to find them other places?
No, they are going out here at the distillery. There is a law where we cannot sell, I think, 100% of the barrel here at one. So, a few cases might go out to local distributor partners, whatnot. But no, that's just like any distillery does. That's the fun part of having a home place and a retail shop. Those are the barrels that when you come out here, you come to Kentucky and you want something unique. Hopefully we have a master taster selection in stock that day and you can get something that you're never going to find anywhere else.
I love them. So with that being said, and here we are still in the middle of this COVID crap, do you think you guys are going to open up where I can regularly come in here and get a master taster selection?
Oh man, that's the question of the year, really. We've been trying. We are making progress towards at least opening retail first. That's probably the plan, and then I think when we do reopen to the public, it will be in a limited capacity, maybe tastings only. We're not going to be rolling through the whole production facility again, just to try and keep everybody safe as possible until it is safe. But as Campbell said, we're in no hurry, and that whiskey takes 4 years to mature, so we're in no hurry to put people at risk. But keeps changing day to day. We're working towards it. You guys, I think we had planned to sit out on the platform months ago and do this podcast, and Scott, had to keep pushing me like, can we get in the building? Can we get in the building? Nope, got pushed back. Nope, got pushed back. So happy that we were able to get you guys out here at least next door to the facility. But we're just going to do it when we feel it's appropriate and when it's safe. And
that's the best way to go about it. Like I said, and I hated to be a pest. Hopefully I wasn't too much of a pest, but it's one of those things where, like I said, Josh is a massive fan. I'm a huge fan. We just really wanted to be able to get in here, have a conversation. And honestly, I was kind of shocked that they would let us come in and have a conversation. It's one of those things where the larger the company gets, sometimes the longer the red tape gets, or different things like that. But your group was great. And speaking of just great in general, like when you all did open retail back up and things like that, the curbside stuff, like it's just super efficient. You pull up, they're like, what's your name? They bring out your bottle. And heck, the first time I came to do a pickup, they actually brought me out some Majeskas, which was like a little extra bonus. So it's one of those really, really nice things where, it's just a first class act, just in general, quick, fast, professional,
I've done curbside 3 times myself, so I don't think you guys have had that many Fridays you've actually done curbside, so I've probably been right there most of them.
Yeah, and that was the first thing that we got the go-ahead, the green light to do curbside service. So if you are local, at least sign up for our email list, and every week an email goes out, and that is the selection of the week. Definitely get on board now, because now we are beginning to release the new Old Forester barrel proof and hunter proof single barrels.
Off air, can you tell me what time those get released so that the crowd doesn't know, but I don't have to be on my phone hitting up oldforester.com.
Refresh.
Yeah, especially because you asked to be on air. There's no way. But no, I really love my job, so
I'm just kidding with you.
not gonna put it in harm's way.
No,
All
absolutely.
good.
You definitely shouldn't.
Let me ask you a question. So you referenced 150 years a little while ago. Is there anything we should be expecting to see special come out of Old Forester with a 150-year anniversary this year?
I mean, yeah, and I can speak to that because it was, we did the press release for it. Of course, you guys, the bourbon geeks especially, almost know more than we do these days with the TTB websites and, labels coming out. But that was really kind of the bummer for me is 2020 was going to be, it was all set to be a banner year for us. This was going to be like our Beatles White Album. We had Derby coming up. We were transitioning to the 100 proof and barrel proof single barrels. And on top of that, we had our 150th anniversary bottle coming out. And then it just all fell flat. So we had the firefighters, so much to look forward to just in this 3 to 4 month span, and then it all went away. But no, we are still looking forward to celebrating our 150th anniversary. If it be at 151, that's 1 year better than 150, so we'll figure something out. But yes, you can look forward. We look forward to celebrating with our fans and, with our customers that have gotten us here after 150 years and stuck with us. So that is something to look forward to. I just wish I could tell you when, but
do we know what
don't.
kind of expression it's going to be, the 150-year bottle?
I can't exactly release that, but I
Okay.
can tell you it's gorgeous. It is a throwback to the original bottle, of Old Forester. The bottle is just wicked looking, and it's a very special selection that Campbell and Chris and Jackie threw together. Actually, it's 3 different batches, so there's going to be 3 different ones.
So are they going to be served at barrel strength, or are they going to be like 90, 100 proof, or?
Yeah, they're, oh God, I almost forget. It's been so long since we were focusing on that, and I've been just focused on the 100 proof and barrel strength. But no, it's a little higher proof. I want to say it's 100.
Yeah, I thought that's what I read, but I just wanted to get clarification because it's been a while since I actually looked at that release whenever they made the press release on
Sure.
that, so I wasn't 100% certain. So I kind of skipped this at the beginning. It's usually what I typically ask people to get started, but how did you get into the bourbon industry or into the spirits industry, and how did you come about to doing what you're doing here at Old Forester?
Well, started out, I've been in the wine and spirits industry for 15 years now. I am a sommelier by trade. I've been a somm for the last 12 years. I think that was 2008. So when I got certified as a sommelier, and my mentor through that program got me involved in teaching wine classes and things like that, which morphed into teaching spirits classes and beer classes as those grew in popularity. So kind of gained an affinity for anything booze, and really it's not the alcohol. It's my 3 favorite subjects in school were history, geography, and science. And as soon as I started studying these things, realized that the booze industry, it incorporates those 3 things, and it is the history of humanity essentially. So it was something that was very intriguing to me, maybe the first thing I really enjoyed studying, so I just kind of kept doing it. Throughout my career, I was in retail for a good 7 years, a very large big box store in Tulsa, Oklahoma, which is where I was, not from there, but I was there about 12 years, and was lucky enough to be selected as I was on the barrel selection team, the single barrel selection team for the Oklahoma market. So there were 8 to 10 of us who would come out here once or twice a year, roll around to all the distilleries and pick a single barrel or 2 or 3 at each one of them, back when you could get 1 or 2 or 3.
So what big box store was that?
It was called Park Hills.
Park Hills
South. Yeah.
The only reason I'm asking is I got a really good friend of mine, and well, actually, it's my cousin that lives just outside of Oklahoma City, and I think it's Edmond.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's always like, "What do you talk about these store pick things all the time?" So I wanted to be able to give him a place that does that type of thing. So Park Hills, so I'll know that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, that was always a great time, and I got to do the single barrel selection process at each of the distilleries, see how they ran it. Turned out that our families, my family ended up in Nashville, my wife's ended up in Indianapolis, and we wanted to be closer as everybody kind of gets up there in years and whatnot. So in 2016, we decided to pull the plug, and Louisville happened to be right in between those two cities, and we knew we loved it. We had been out here many times on the barrel selection trips and whatnot. Great food scene. You got bourbon, you got horses. It's still kind of a small town. So, and I thought for certain with my credentials, I could just roll in here and get a job anywhere. And so we moved here blind. We didn't have a job. The cool thing is I had my eye on Old Forester since about 2014, 2015, when I found out this whole thing was going on. And I was like, I knew the story because I'm a nerd, but at that time, Old Forester was still kind of grandpa's bourbon at my retail store. No one really knew the history or knew the quality. So I had my eye on this and figured, they're opening summer of 17, might be good, and then the fire happened. So we picked up and moved here anyway. I think I applied to every distillery that had some job that, even was in my wheelhouse. And it is, I will tell you, very hard to get into the bourbon industry. These jobs are highly coveted. No one leaves. I had to scratch and claw my way in. I became the wine director for a year and a half for Liquor Barn, which is a large retail conglomerate with 17 locations, 19 actually now here in Kentucky. But, I figured if this is where we're going to live, this is where we're going to stay, wine is great, beer is great, but it's just not where the show is.
No.
In Kentucky. So when Old Forester finally did open up, I just took the plunge. Happy to say, man, I took a 60% pay cut the first year I got in here, but I just knew I had to do something to get my foot in the door, and that it would probably work itself out once they, realized the other things I had to offer, given my history in the wine and spirits industry and my palate and whatnot. And man, luckily it worked out, and just happy to be here. And it's been a wild ride.
How did you train that palate to be the palate that somebody would want?
That is a good question. Fortunately, I had the wine background, and it just involves practice and tasting. The best advice.
I need to drink more.
The best advice. Well, you need more glasses. The best advice I could give anyone trying to develop their palate is side-by-side comparison. Do not taste one thing now and then taste another thing tomorrow night. You need perspective. It's almost like a paint swatch. If you look at a light yellow paint color on this wall on Monday, and then I repainted it another light yellow color that is on the paint swatch next to it at the Home Depot, and you came in next Thursday, you would not notice a difference. But when you get them side by side, just like a paint swatch, you start to notice that, okay, this is this, this is this, this is this. And it puts it in perspective. It gives you relief. And that is really the only way to develop your palate is side-by-side tasting. Do it whenever you can. Do it with friends.
Sounds like I need to get to work. I'm going to.
And then, smell. I mean, smell apples and fruits and, wine. You hear wet stones and shit like that. Just smell whatever you can. Your taste is 70% smell, so develop that nose.
So it sounds like you've drank a lot of stuff over the years. Is bourbon your favorite, or is it like you have another like dirty secret? Like I really really love.
Don't say vodka. Don't say vodka.
No, definitely not vodka. I've taught a lot of vodka classes, with the different grains and whatnot. Bourbon has always been a favorite. Tequila, mezcal, sotol. I'm a tequila fanatic. I think it's as diverse and complex as Scotch. I like my Scotches, my Irish whiskeys. Being in retail and managing beverage programs for so long, it wasn't necessarily my job to have favorites. My job was to know the differences in each category. Well, this gin is going to be this, and this gin is going to be this. So tell me what you're looking for, and I can guide you this way, whether it's gin, vodka, tequila, whatever. So, that's kind of how I developed my palate is, okay, I need to know about these 5 major gins. So let's line them up, side by side taste them, and figure out how we can convey the differences to you if you walk into my store or whatever. So it just kind of sprang from there and grew into classes. Okay, let's do a gin class, let's do a sake class, whatever. But it all goes back to that side by side tasting, and bourbon is at the top of my list. I would say bourbon and tequila are my 2 biggest vices. I kind of got burnt out on the wine. You taste 20, 25 wines a week for 10 years. I still love it, but now it's kind of a food only thing. I was happy to get here to Kentucky and get into something a little different.
Right. We actually did about a month and a half ago, I think. We did a sample, a podcast where we did 3 Old Forester single barrels and 3 Buffalo Trace single barrels. And
I think I listened to that one. Yeah.
I was pleasantly surprised with myself for picking out all 3 of the Old Forester. Now, I couldn't get...
You're definitely a fan.
Yeah, I couldn't get which one was which pick, but I was able to pick out the 3 that were Old Foe versus the 3 that were Buffalo Trace. Patted myself on the back, and then I drank a little too much that night, and it, continued because I think they poured me one of those hazmats without telling me what they poured me.
Aha, right.
But I was surprised and pleased, and I want to go back and I want to do that, but try some of just the Old Foes side by side. The Honey Orchard, the Cherry Picker, the Gallenstein, and the Distillery Edition. I want to go back and try some of these and really sample the difference of them just back to back to back. So.
Yeah, I mean, and again, that's a great way to develop your palate, and sounds like you've honed in. Buffalo Trace is also a favorite of mine, especially at that under $25 price point. Old Forester and Buffalo Trace are
stupid good.
I don't think you can beat it, but that's kind of a congrats, man. Your palate can't be too bad.
With all fairness, he guessed it off color, which was the more impressive part for me. I just sit there and I was like, I kind of knew which ones they were because I poured them, but my wife was the one that mixed them all up and everything else and brought them out. And I just remember distinctly that the Old Foresters were just a touch darker than the Buffalo Traces were. So
I did actually pick them by color first, but that was just a wild ass guess, and it was nothing more than that because I had never paid attention to the color of them. And then I went and tried them, and I very clearly knew what I didn't like, which was the Buffalo Trace. And it's not bad; it's just not my thing.
Yeah, he's not a big rye guy, and I like high rye stuff, so sure, it's a little bit different. But I still prefer, an Old Forester single barrel over a Buffalo Trace single barrel, just because I like the variety of flavor. For me, but a lot of the Buffalo Trace store picks, and not that I don't like them or enjoy them, it's just you get a lot of that rye bomb up front, and then sometimes you just they lose a little bit on the backside. So
I do believe that's why Jasnoff didn't come tonight, because he was afraid he was going to try more Old Forester, find out how much better it is than the Buffalo Trace he loves, and not be able to go back to it.
well, there's so much versatility in that Buffalo Trace, blend. I mean, it's what Stag Junior comes off of. I mean, there's lots of other good things that are just crazy good products that come out of that. So
Oh yeah, and I was very fortunate back in the day before he was a cult celebrity to, Freddie was the one that used to do our barrel picks and tours and everything out at Buffalo Trace. He is just an absolute icon and one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. So I don't typically talk bad about any distilleries, where it's kind of a cool, unique, camaraderie that we have. We're in competition, but it's very cool. Everyone's very much in it for the greater good. So
100%.
yeah, it's a really cool.
They're all good, and Jasnoff and I just have this back and forth about how much of a fanboy I am here and love Old Forester, and so that was our side by side, because he wanted to try to get me to enjoy it, and I just differences, and everybody likes different things, and none of them are bad. They're just not my jam.
Absolutely. No, it's all personal, very.
yeah, because me and I've, as much as I love Four Roses, I love a lot of the Buffalo Trace products and things like that. The more Four Roses that I drink, and the different variety of recipes, and that comes a lot from yeast. It's just, they just add a ton of variety as well. So it's one of those weird things that everybody's got a different palate, and you tend to find a lot of things that you like about different things. So
I just saw you take a drink of the President's Choice Barrel Number 3. You want to tell us a little bit about it?
I'm still breathing, just enjoying this finish. So, yeah, the guys brought some unique, fun things, and I figured since I was unable to procure them, we did the first release curbside pickup of Old Forester single barrel proof today, and I was unable to procure them a bottle, so I thought I'd bring something else special. So I brought an unopened Old Forester President's Choice number 3, which we're on, I think, selection 15 now. Great story. I can elaborate on it. President's Choice harkens back to the 50s and 60s when the president of Old Forester would personalize labels and send them to business partners and whoever they thought was deserving, and it was a great tradition. You still see bottles surface that are addressed to an individual. Sometimes they're empty, sometimes they're unopened, which is crazy cool. And
so wait. Have you ever tried one of the ones that were around?
I have not. You can
Well, there's just something to me about Old Dusties, like
oh yeah,
getting to try a bottle. Like I just found a bottle of I.W. Harper, and it's a 1964 bottle. So I'm trying to talk the guy out of it. It's been sitting on his counter in his office for like 40-something years. His dad had it before him, and their family business. And I'm just like, what do you want for that bottle?
Yeah, man, that's where the Justins come in too. Every Justin's House of Bourbon, they'll get their hands on some fun stuff like that. So need to go hang out with them a little more. But yeah, it's just a great story in that the way I understand it, Old Forester did not have a Brown family member as its president for a number of years, and the President's Choice just kind of fell by the wayside. And then when this whole thing was getting ready to happen, we now have Campbell Brown at the helm, who is unbelievable, Brown family member, and he's our president. And Jackie convinced him to reinvigorate this President's Choice program. So it's something we've relaunched since reopening the home place here. And Jackie will kind of, as Campbell says, she makes it idiot proof for him. So she'll select 5 or 6 barrels and give him samples, and he takes them to his basement over a weekend and spends some time with them, comes back to him, and he decides what is going to be the next President's Choice. And we release 5, 6 a year, somewhere in there. and they're only released in Kentucky. So this is something that's, in fact, even more rare than birthday bourbon. It's a single barrel that Campbell selects, and they're all delicious. Campbell tends to have a bit of a sweet tooth, so they're more of that viscous maple, toffee, caramel, vanilla driven profile, but always fun, always delicious, and something special.
Yeah, 5, 6, and 7 were probably my 3 favorite that I've tried. So I'm not sipped on this one yet. I'm still getting the nose, and I'm letting it breathe a hair before I get into it. So
the first drink of this one was a little bit of burn, a little bit of afterburn for me, but the second go at this, just very complex, very full of flavor, strong caramel notes in it.
Yeah, definitely big caramel.
So do you have a favorite baby that's in the Old Forester lineup, and then we'll even broaden it and say, do you have a favorite baby in the Brown-Forman lineup, and then the third one is what's your favorite baby outside of the family?
Oh man, I could get long-winded on that. Within the Old Forester within the core portfolio, given my wine background, I tend to take it way too far. So I will say that our 100 proof Signature 100 is like my everyday go-to. Again, one of those that for under 25 on the shelf, it's very, very hard to beat out there. 1910, our double oaked, we released October of 2018, just caught the world on fire. We sold out in 3 months and had to wait another 9 months until we re-released. I really like the depth that it has, but it's so light on its feet. It's these beautiful green apples mixed with this deep dark char and kind of salted caramel thing going on. So 1910, if I had my way, that would be more of my spring and summer drinker. And then moving into fall and winter, 1920 or the 1897 Bottled and Bond, which has a lot more deeper spice tones to it. But 1920 for me, the higher proof, these rich, deep, chocolatey notes that it brings forth. It's dessert in a bottle, and it gives you that nice, warm, fuzzy feeling all over. So, those are within the Old Forester portfolio. Within Brown-Forman, obviously probably biased to Old Foe in that same vein. Our brothers over at Woodford make great stuff. The new Woodford Double Oaked is again one of my favorites. Again, just that whole thing, 1910 Woodford Double Oaked is a story that originated right next door here, and that the building had a fire in 1910. They couldn't bottle up the whiskey, so that whiskey they were about to bottle up went back into barrel for 2 years or more while they made the repairs, and we inadvertently created the first double oak bourbon back in 1912, 1913, whenever it was released. So that's something that's kind of near and dear to our hearts, is the double oaked, and took 90 years for it to come back to life. So I do like our double oaked, Woodford's double oaked, just the whole story behind that. What I like about Woodford, if I'm doing a single barrel pick out there, is part of it's distilled in Shively, part of it's distilled in those iconic copper pot stills out at LeBreau and Graham, or what's now Woodford. And it's really cool. You can tell when you are doing a single barrel tasting if they roll out a barrel that came off the pot stills. They have this gorgeous, flowing, chocolatey Irish whiskey kind of tone to them. And that's probably my favorite Woodford, and my other favorite Brown-Forman product is fun things when you go out and pick a Woodford single barrel. You get something fun like that.
I want to say last year the Louisville Bourbon Club put out a honey barrel Woodford double oaked. Mm-hmm. That bottle was killer. I drank that thing so quick I didn't know what to do with it. And it had everything. I mean, it had that enormous flavor profile.
Yeah.
That double oak just released so much more flavor from that. amazing. So I can absolutely see what you would love there.
So yeah, I'm right there with you. So of those products, I'm a big double oak fan, but I really like the double oak.
Yeah.
The only thing that's disappointing for me is that you can't get it barrel strength. Like I like stuff hot, but selfishly and weird, I guess because I like the higher proof stuff, the King of Kentucky, that came out the last couple of years. I mean, just
Killer.
oh my gosh, some of the samples I've tried of that, and I think I've tried 3 different ones, and all of them were just great in their own way. I mean, and they were just so different. Even they were nothing like the others. So it's just really different whenever you have a product that's basically the same one. But Chris did just such a brilliant job. I guess him and did Jackie work on that project as well, or do you know? Or
No, Woodford is all Chris and Elizabeth.
Gotcha.
And Chris kind of bounces back and forth, and then really Old Forester has been Jackie's pet, her baby. And that's been from the last 2, if not 3, releases of Birthday Bourbon through 1910 and subsequently Rye, which, I mean, she's just hitting home runs everywhere she swings, which has been awesome to see.
Not going to disagree with you.
So outside the family,
And Honey Orchard, of course.
So outside the family, what's your go-to?
Man, that is a tough question. Like I said, I'm a big bourbon fan. In the past, again, I have my favorites at every distillery. I'm a big fan of Wild Turkey. I've got an empty Russell's Reserve barrel in my apartment, in fact, sitting there right now as a display. I love the McKenna series. McKenna and the Rye. Four Roses, like you said, I'm a geek like that. I love the infinite possibilities, and every time I go there, or every time I buy a small batch or a single barrel, it's something completely unto itself. So, those are some of my other favorites that if somebody's...
Do you have a favorite blend, like OBSK, OESF, OESO?
Not necessarily. I've had a couple different ones that, and I like them just as much as anything else. We did one at Liquor Barn called Sticky Fingers that was probably my favorite Old Forester or Four Roses selection that I've ever had. It was just delicious.
So speaking of single barrels there,
Yeah.
What has changed? Because you said when you were in Oklahoma, you got to come and be a part of the single barrel selection, and just in general, not necessarily here at Old Forester, but what's changed in that 8 to 10 years of single barrel process?
Man, I mean, the world caught fire with single barrel. It's been an interesting phenomenon in that, I was there to, obviously got into the wine thing because that was what was hot at the moment back in 2008. And then beer blew up. Craft beer was everywhere, and that's what my customers wanted. So it's like, hell, you got to start teaching beer classes, and that led to doing the Cicerone thing, which is like the sommelier equivalent for beer, and really enjoyed the craft beer movement and everything. It just got too big too fast. There were just so many releases every week that it kind of burnt me out quickly. And bourbon was... What I love about bourbon is it's so true to itself. There's no shortcuts. You can't just pop open a distillery and have things immediately out there that you made. It regulates itself almost. So it wasn't quite there when we first started doing all these single barrel selections. You could go out to Buffalo Trace and Freddie's there walking you around. They line up 25 barrels, 4 of each, 4 barrels of Buffalo Trace, 4 barrels of Weller, 4 barrels of Eagle Rare, 4 barrels of Blanton's, whatever, and you pick one of each. I mean, you're lucky to get on the list for one of those nowadays.
Yeah. You're lucky to make it out alive, it sounds like, in those days.
Well, yeah, no, it sounds like a lot of fun, but you do these barrel selection death marches. You do 2 or 3 distilleries in a day, tasting 20 barrels at a time. That's work. I don't care what you say.
No, absolutely.
So it's been this whole phenomenon where just flavor, I think it all started with like this Food Network movement. You know, Food Network came online in 93, and America was kind of meat and potatoes and cheeseburgers back then. And then you get these celebrity chefs, and then all of a sudden, even fast food joints are getting Chipotle mayo, and flavor is trending bigger and bolder. And then the craft beer movement comes in, and you get these huge, gigantic IPAs that are 100 plus IBUs, and they're just hops, hops, hops. So the American palate, if you will, or anybody's interested, has kind of just been trending towards bigger, bolder, more. And bourbon obviously fits in that wheelhouse. So the bourbon boom caught fire, plus the whole transition to not fake. Vodka and flavored vodka was king, and you get to Fruit Loops and marshmallow and everything, and then it collapsed because you get more millennials that are starting to reach the drinking age, and they don't want imitation flavors and everything that are half the bottle, and they start transitioning to something that is pure and true, which bourbon fits that bill exactly. Yeah. And it's just been interesting. You have all these factors that I think have played into it, and not only bourbon catching fire, and then single barrel starts to grow and grow, and barrel strength especially, I think, is everyone thinks they want it now. They want barrel proof, or they want higher proof, and continuing the trend of bigger, bolder, bigger. But now it's not celebrity chefs anymore. You have master distillers, the master tasters, that are becoming these quasi cult celebrities, and they're in magazines and newspapers and articles, and you see them drilling into a barrel and this beautiful stream of bourbon coming out into a Glencairn, and everybody thinks that that's how the master distillers and the master tasters drink their bourbon, is at barrel proof, which nothing could be further from the truth. They're taking it down all the way to 40 proof when they're analyzing and batching and everything like that. But what I love about barrel strength, and I agree with these higher proofs, is it really comes down to filtration. That's the back end that nobody really knows about. When we're doing a 90 proof single barrel, per FDA regulations, it has to sit and be swirled around on activated carbon for 12 hours. When you go to 100 proof, that falls to 2 hours. You're at a sixth of the time. And at barrel strength, 0. Basically, all you're doing is filtering out the char that fell off the inside of the barrel. So it is that purest expression of the bourbon that came out of the barrel, and that's what drinkers are looking for now. And the great thing about it is you can tinker around with it. You add a drop of water, see how it changes. You add 3 drops of water, see how it changes. It's this whole concert of different flavors, and you can proof it down and drink it how you like it. Josh wants to take it all the way down to 90. He can do that with a barrel proof that's unadulterated, still retains all those fatty acids and lipids and these flavor and aroma molecules that you're looking for.
And I think that to me is what's so enticing about the barrel proof product, is the fact that I can make it whatever I want it to be, right? It's already hot, and if I want to add an ice cube, I can, and if I don't, I can drink it straight. If I want to mix it, I can mix it with a little bit of this, and it still holds that robust flavor, that it started with, because it's just more of it, to begin with. So I think that's been the big thing about me and in my transition. I was a home brewer for years, so.
Oh, yeah.
So
kindred spirits.
So moving from that to, bourbon was mainly out of necessity of, hey, I don't want to drink as many calories. I always felt full after drinking a whole bunch of beer, because I'd mainly only drink porters, stouts, things like that. So it was a natural transition, because I like big flavors like that, to move to, the bourbon side. And not that I haven't always been a bourbon drinker, but I definitely drink a heck of a lot more of it now than I did 10 years ago. So,
every time we sit and we have this conversation about the science of it and the filtration and the engineering to it, engineer by education here, I wish I would have known at about 16 or 17 that, man, you should go into chemical engineering or chemistry and go be a master distiller, or a distiller, because I know it takes a whole lot to gain that title of master distiller. That's what I would, if I had the opportunity to go back to college and do it again, that's what I would do. And that's what I tell my daughter. You need to go be a chemical engineer. You could be the master distiller for me.
Yeah, live vicariously. And you know, especially when, I don't know how old you guys are, but when we were coming up, that's a hell of a good idea. But again, now it's gotten so competitive but really, truthfully, your daughter is a great option. You see all these positions that the women are starting to fill. Jackie, Elizabeth, Marianne Barnes, and it's has nothing to do with just women filling the positions. The fact is they have much better palates than we do. Dating back to the caveman days, women have 30 to 50% more taste buds than men do. I mean, Og the caveman comes home with a rancid leg of meat or a mushroom that's poisonous or whatnot. He may eat part of it and keel over, but mom, who is with baby, can taste that something's off or something's wrong. She doesn't eat it, and the whole human race survives. So, you know, they still have to, no matter who you are, you still have to train your palate. But if you are a woman who is blessed with that right balance of taste buds and you get your palate trained, you know, I've known several female master sommeliers and, you know, master tasters and whatnot, and I can't hold a candle to them even with 12 years of sommelier experience or whatnot. They'll taste me under the table every time.
Right now, I'm just wishing I hadn't burnt my roof of my mouth yesterday with hot black coffee so I could be tasting everything. Yesterday, I poured a cup of coffee, and I was too eager to get to it, and mouth just burned.
Yeah.
Yeah. High proof bourbon doesn't feel good on that.
I agree 100% with what you're saying, though. Like, it was shocking to me, you know, because like I said, I've been drinking bourbon for a long time. My wife hates it. She won't. I mean, I've taken her to multiple bourbon events. We've bought tickets and things, and she's always like, sip, and she's like, you know, the ugly face and things like that. And I'm trying to get her to make that turn, but it's just, she's never gotten there. But the women that I know that drink bourbon, like, they're always like, oh man, do you taste this? And do you taste that? I'm like,
well, I didn't a second ago, but now I do. Yeah.
So it's just really weird because I totally 100% agree with you on that piece. So, so I'll tell you what, I think I'm going to cut us a little short today because I want to leave a little bit for the next time that we come over and visit, you know, because I don't want to eat up all your time tonight either. Plus, I want to drink a little bit while we're off mic. So if people
don't have to pull my arm.
If people want to get a hold of you, do you want to do a little 30-second commercial here, and then we'll close out from there? Yeah, I mean, best way to get a hold of me, that's the unfortunate part now. I'm always open to email, tyler_mirt@b-f.com is the best way to get a hold of me. Haven't gotten, you know, I'm kind of old school. I don't do a lot on Facebook and Instagram. I will if I need to, but don't have the famous
I'm more of a purist.
Tyler M.
Exactly.
Nothing like that, huh?
Exactly. Right. But, you know, we're just hoping to get back open, at least in some capacity. And if you haven't been out to the distillery, haven't gotten the opportunity, even if you've done the whole bourbon trail, I will say it is worth it to come down here to downtown Louisville. And when we do get back open, come see the entire process. You get to see it beginning to end. You get to see how a barrel is made and coopered, which is something you can't see anywhere else, and would be happy to have you. So just looking forward to getting back to some form of normalcy here soon. Good deal. So, hey, and if you want to reach us at Bourbon Barrel Talk, you can find us on Facebook at our website, www.bourbonbarreltalk.com. And you can find us on Twitter and Instagram. This is Scott Minton, Josh Hillman,
Old Faux Fanboy out,
and Tyler.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Bye-bye.